Hola from the west side. It's DC, the Purple Diva, and welcome to Not So Random Chat. I hope everybody is having a good Monday. As you can see, I have some different music again tonight, but I am back to the music from my goddaughter. This is called Anticipation. Another thing she did a million years ago. Hey, 1SP. Glad to see you. We missed you last night. How are you doing? Yeah, we continued some discussion on that. Oh, thank you, 1SP. Yeah, we continued the conversation last night on the Khazars. We may talk about it a little tonight, but I'm gonna wait until Terry gets in here before I go into that. I'm just glad it's a positive Monday. I woke up this morning in my right mind, and I was able to make it through my day. I made some new friends on YouTube, more positive people. Thank you. I'm glad. My son is doing well. He was in the same room as I am, but he went upstairs. So I'm just kind of, chilling with this. I don't know what this one is. I guess this is a different type of trap music than the other one that she gave me. But I found it in some of the music that she gave me. So I decided I'd put it out there for a minute, see how we like it. Because the music I played last night, I played copy-free music. But after the live stream, I had to go, chase down all the artists and put them in my description for last night's live stream. So I won't do all that tonight. I don't want to do all that tonight. So tonight I'm just going to use something that I personally own that I won't get a copyright strike for. Yes. We are thriving. I mean, it's summertime weather where I am, and I'm also sending positive, prayers and everything to the community that's north of here, where that school shooting was. But it seems to be they're doing a lot of mental health with those kids, and they seem to be a very strong community. Hey, fishing boys. Welcome. Please don't forget to smash that like button. Please don't forget to smash that like button. But it is a good Monday night. I have to say that I missed the impeachment hearings today. I'm not sorry that I did. I'm okay with that. I didn't need any of that negativity in my space today. Hey, Dobson family, what's up? Thank you for coming. Please don't forget to smash that like button. Happy Monday night. Today, I'm just started out with the motivation. That's why I got the kind of new agey music going, if you call it that, if you want to call it that. Sounds new agey to me. But I'm just happy to be alive. I'm happy that my son is doing well. He hasn't had a meltdown in a week. Thank you. We haven't had any meltdown situations in a week, which is a good thing. And I did do some more reading on the that Robin Crawford book. It's getting interesting, but I still feel that the book that Robin Crawford has put out is a money grab, because I don't get, I mean, I see it's from her perspective, but it's like she's trying to tell Whitney's story, and really the physical relationship between her and Whitney was something that happened when they were teenagers, and it happened for a very short period of time. So it's not like it was the crux of the relationship. So I'm wary. Hey Terry, I was telling 1SP that he missed it last night. But I'm talking about Whitney's book right now. The book about Whitney, rather. Which I don't understand why it's about Whitney. My personal opinion is that Robin is telling the story of her life with Whitney, because I guess her life without Whitney is not that interesting. And maybe I was wrong. Maybe she does need some money, because it's an attention grabber. She kind of misleads people a little bit, I guess, in her interviews to make it seem like their, physical relationship was more of their relationship, but it really wasn't. And it's really only a small portion of the book. It's literally only in part of chapter 1 and part of chapter 2. And then as I told y'all last night, when Whitney signed with Arista shortly thereafter, she stopped it and went on to only be with men. How old am I? 25. Yeah, that's a good one. No, I am over 50, 1SP. And I'm actually over 55. So I'm considered a senior citizen. Yeah, 25 times 2 plus 5. plus on top of that. I promise you guys, I will live stream on my next birthday. I'll be all over YouTube that day. My birthday's in February. It's not a big birthday for me, but every birthday is a big birthday for you after you reach a certain age. Because, all of us know people that didn't make it to see the age that we are. See, the thing is that that's what I'm saying, Terry. I think for Whitney, the physical relationship between her and Robin was just a thing for her, She was a teenager. But she was also a Christian and was brought up a certain way. And so it didn't last very long for her. Really, I haven't seen you in so long. I haven't seen my friend across the pond in so long. I've had another friend across the pond who's been taking your place, Stefan. Steph, I've had another friend, Squishy Unicorn, who's been coming through, who's also across the pond. My birthday is February the 4th, though. It's usually around Super Bowl. Yeah, but so, I mean, to me, and this is just my personal opinion, oh, you're flirting, 1SP. You're flirting. You're flirting. You're flirting. Anyway, so we're gonna go back to Whitney because you have me blushing now. Stop it. Yeah, my opinion is that Whitney was not really a lesbian or bisexual. This was a teenage experience she had with her friend. And I guess she was experimenting, and then as she was moving into her career, she realized that this wasn't something that she wanted to pursue in her life. So she stopped it. I mean, that's my opinion. And, Robin talks about, when Whitney was a model in the book. She talks about when she was recording her first album, and that Whitney did not appreciate other artists using her for vocals, using her voice and stuff to puff up their albums. I think she was like that after her experience with Jermaine Jackson. I think she got like that after that experience. And so when she met Kashif, because Kashif was coming in to help her with the first album, even though you don't see Whitney's name on that album that he did back then, Whitney's all over the album. He even had Lilo Thomas to cover something, but you can still hear Whitney all up in there. And Whitney had asked him to take her off that album because she didn't want him to be on there because he didn't pay her. And the other reason she was like that was also because of her mother, Sissy's experience in the music industry. Her mom's vocals with the Sweet Inspirations got used and sampled on a lot of people's stuff, and they never got paid for that stuff. Hey, Darren. I ain't seen you in a long time, bro. I ain't seen you in a minute. Welcome. Wow, I got two of my mods up in here tonight. So, yeah, the book that Robin is writing, I mean, she seems to have an awfully good memory of all of this stuff. Like she was taking notes. When everything was going on, which leads me to believe that, even though it took her so long to put this book out, that maybe she already had everything already written out, in notes and stuff. You know how people keep notes and stuff or keep journals? So I'm thinking she had something like that. Have you, Darren? Yeah. We on the positive vibes over here. All of that stuff takes too much energy from me. So I can't even do it. I'm going to let the other folks do it. I'm going to let the other folks do it. I got enough stressors in my life being a caregiver than to be getting into it with folk on YouTube that I don't even know. What is P? You are funny. Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. I mean, so far, you know, she's not really talking about any. I mean, she's given a little bit more insight, but I mean, she's not really telling anything other than her perspective of how Whitney saw things, and you know, kind of like as a voyeur on Whitney's life, really, because I haven't heard anything of any huge magnitude in there other than it's obvious that this woman is still probably, you know, has strong feelings for Whitney, you know, and kept those feelings even after they no longer were, you know, friends. Hey, Miss Mahogany. How are you? So, you know, she's just right now in the book, she's just talking about the early career of Whitney, and you know how she was choosing her songs for the first album. And she did make a point about the song, one of my favorite songs by Whitney Houston, You Give Good Love, that Ann Landers wrote a letter in her column, a piece in her column back then about it, stating that the song, that the music industry was going too sexual. But if you guys know that song, you know that that song was not really that type of song. It was more hinting at it. It wasn't a sexually overt song in the least. I'm glad you're feeling better. I'm glad you're feeling better, Miss Mahogany. Yeah, missed you at Miss Jovi's thing. She was on. And what else would I was getting ready to say about that book? Yeah, it's just really she's only scratching the surface. I'm in chapter 7. I told you that this girl, each chapter is excruciatingly long to me because she rambles. And you know, I mean, the way she's saying it in the Audible book is exactly how it's, you know, it is in the book, you know. But you know, it's not like she's a great writer or anything. People are just going to buy this book to find out what she has to say about Whitney. But she's really not a good writer, guys. She's really not. And that's why it's a struggle getting through the book, because she's not a good writer. And even though you would think with a topic like Whitney Houston that it would be a good read, but it's a hard read. It's boring. The book is a snoozer so far, and I'm in chapter 7. But I'm doing this because I'm committed. I'm committed to finishing this book. And I'm going to be interested to see the reviews of this book that are out there, because it's been out for almost a week now. But my review so far is that she probably should have had somebody to help her with the book, because it doesn't seem, she's not a good writer to me, y'all. I don't know how to say it any nicer than that. I don't know how to, but the subject matter is good, Stefan, but it's the writer, everybody can't write. Everybody can't write and pull you into it. I want to be pulled into it when I'm reading it. And I mean, I'm only a little bit, like in certain pieces, like in certain paragraphs. But then the rest of it, I'm just like, okay. And then what happened? I'm like that the whole time, because it just, maybe I should just read the book and not listen to her. Maybe I should just do the reading and not listen to her. Maybe it's because I'm listening to her. Maybe that's the reason why, because I'm listening to the book and I'm reading the book. And that's probably why it's boring to me, because I'm listening to her. So I just need to have my voice in my head and not her voice in my head reading the book. Maybe that's what it is. But yeah. So but I'm going to finish it, you guys. I promise. I am. I have, on the Audible, it says I have like about 6 or 7 hours. That means if I actually sit there and listen to her talk. So I think I'm going to read, because I don't think I can handle that. And I loved Michelle Obama's Audible book. It was very, very engaging. It was very engaging. It might have been, and see, here's the thing. It may have been better if someone else had read her book for her, because sometimes you're not the best person. Just because you wrote something doesn't mean you should be the one who's reading it on Audible, because maybe you just don't have the right voice. So I think that might be what it is. Somebody else should have read the book for her. Not in her book. No, it's supposed to be all factual. It's supposed to be factual about, her recollection of her life with Whitney, because she was on Whitney's team through the first part of her career, and I mean, she was even there when Bobby came on the scene. She didn't leave until after Whitney got married to Bobby, because she was in the wedding. But I haven't gotten to that yet, because that's the part I would be interested in seeing is how her interaction was once Whitney got with Bobby. Because so far, we haven't gotten to Eddie Murphy yet. You recite your own work? Well, see, I recite some of my spoken word. Some of my poetry. I turn it into spoken word when I recite it. But only some of it can be spoken word. Some of it is just really a poem. And it's a good read on paper, but it's harder to do it as a spoken word. Yeah. And, you know, maybe, you know, she just doesn't have a, I mean, maybe it is what it is, you know? And not, it wasn't anything all that flashy or anything. But her account is just boring. And I know Whitney didn't have a boring life. And therefore, your life couldn't have been that boring when you were with Whitney. You know, working with her when you were her roommate. They were roommates for like, you know, for a while before you know, Whitney bought a house and stuff. Hey, Cooper family. Yeah. I know you do 1SP. I haven't done any of my spoken word on YouTube. I think I did one time in one of my first live streams when there was nobody in the stream. But I'm working on a spoken word CD and putting some music to them. Yep, it just keeps looping. I think I'm gonna change it to a different one. I have a different one. Let me see if this other one is better than this one, because this one kind of just is blah to me. It's okay, but I'm gonna put on a different song. I'm going to put on this other one. All right, now the other one's coming on. This is called Almost There. So I'll let this one loop for a while. Hey, Queen Bee. How are you? Haven't seen you in a minute. You heard that Robin and Bobby would actually fight. You know, that I'm interested in seeing if that's true, because we see how it was portrayed in the Bobby Brown story. That's what I'm saying. That was the inference that Bobby had to it. Yeah, I know. I know they like the music with spoken word. So I want to have music. I'm going to get music specifically to go with my spoken word. I have one of them is like a tribute to Luther Vandross. It's called Ode to a Bad Boy. And it has, and throughout the entire spoken word, it has a whole bunch of Luther Vandross songs in it. I wrote it like the day that they announced that he died. I wrote it that night. So that's one of the ones that I'm going to put on there. You won't be able to put emojis. Oh, you mean on streams and stuff? In chats? Some of your new work? Yeah. Well, like the one that I did, the Ode to a Bad Boy, I want like a bass guitar behind it with, you know, kind of doing a loop similar to one of the songs that Luther wrote with Marcus Miller. So that's what I'm, not, I don't want to sample their stuff. I just want, I want something that's similar to that kind of beat. So hopefully that will happen, because I got a couple people that I'm supposed to be working with on it. Oh, my coffee is ready, guys. We brought it. I've been sitting here with no coffee. Now I have it. But yeah, I've been writing poems since I was a teenager. I wrote this one poem that I still have from when I was a teen that's called Unrequited Love. Now, I don't know what I knew as a 17-year-old girl about unrequited love, but that's what I called the poem. So I think I was just deep, or I thought I was deep, one or the other. Yeah, I do make some of my own music too, 1SP, but I don't play the bass, so that's why I need somebody to help me on that part. But I know a couple of bass guitarists that can just put the loop for me. Yeah, I know how to write music. I write music, I write lyrics and stuff, and I do a little bit of music, but I want, more live instruments, and I don't play enough live instruments. I play acoustic guitar a little. I play keyboard okay, and I play the flute. And the flute is the only thing that I'm good at. So, I might, put some flute backgrounds on one of them that I can actually do it myself and just, put that on it and then just talk over it. So that's one of the things that I thought about for one of the ones. But, I want kind of like jazzy, music behind the poems, because so you have a certain type of rhythm when you're saying the words. Did you were watching documentaries today? Well, I was watching documentaries the other night. The other night, Queen Bee, I set up watching documentaries. I still have questions. My head is still spinning for all of the stuff that I thought I knew, or I thought I had the right understanding, but now I have the real understanding about. And it's just, it's messing with me, because there's people that are doing all of these things that are really spiritually perverted when I think about it. Yeah. And I just can't see that it's going to be blessed by God. I can't see that God would bless it. God's not going to bless mess. Hey, Ricky. How are you? But yeah, so the other night and last night, we were talking about the biblical Jews, the biblical Israelites. Let me be correct. The biblical Israelites versus modern day Jews, and the difference between the two. And the crazy thing is that most people thought that they were one and the same, but they're not. They're two completely different peoples with two completely different heritages, of which one has taken the heritage of the other and made it their own. So, you know, it just kind of also made me question Christianity's view of Israel and of modern day Judaism. Yeah. But the thing is that in looking, it just, you know, I guess the nation of Israel, the biblical nation of Israel, is not the only people who had their culture and their, religious traditions basically taken, destroyed, or, taken over by somebody else. It's just very, very weird that the rest of the world has allowed this to happen. And we didn't say nothing about it. And it's like the rightful heirs of the promised land are still not in the promised land. And it's all about politics. But for the Palestinians, it's about religion. And now I can kind of understand their standpoint. I told you, Miss Mahogany. I told you. Hey, right. Hi, Right's Way. Well, see, here's the thing. Stephanie, you know that according to the Catholic Church, I'm backslidden because I will never go to a Catholic church again in life, ever. I spoke about this. I've spoken about this multiple times. You know, my reasoning is because I left because of a priest who was doing inappropriate things to children, to little boys in the church that I was in. No one caught him doing it, but we knew it was happening. And when it was, and what they did was they just sent him away. And so when they sent him away, I left because I was done, because he wasn't prosecuted or anything, but God prosecuted him later on because he lost an eye. So now he only has one eye. So he can't look at little boys anymore. That part. So that ran me up out of the Catholic Church. And I mean, obviously the inconsistencies and just reading the Bible and understanding, that I didn't have to go to some man and tell him my business. I could just tell it to God, and, the misunderstanding that they have about, making the bread and the wine into the literal body and blood. And then of course, the paganism. That part too, with all the statues. So yeah, I was good on Catholicism, and I was brought up in it too. But the thing is that why my mind is spinning is because when people talk about us being a Judeo-Christian nation, talking about the United States, the Judeo part is not the biblical Jews. It's these new Jews whose ancestors converted to Judaism. They aren't the people who God gave the religion to. They're not descendants of Jacob. They're not descendants of Joseph. They're not descendants of David. I don't know how to say it any other way. But they perpetrate that they are. And it's blown, and the world allows them to. So in my head, I'm like, okay, so when Jesus comes back, and when God comes back, it's going to be crazy. I mean, because this is just something that is to me, a spiritual abomination. Yeah, I know we've talked about that. And I mean, a lot of people stop having a belief in God because of things that happen to them within religion. I'm not going to let any religion run me away from God. I just don't do religious denominations anymore. That's right. That's what I'm saying, right way. They are not. But they perpetrate, that they are. That means their Levites are not descendants of the tribe of Levi. We know that the Ethiopian Jews are from the tribe of Dan. Okay, we know that. So that's the only ones we know. Exactly. Yeah. And who knows where they are now? That's what I'm talking about. I'm like, for all we know, some of us over here in the Americas could be descendants of the real ones, because they got lost in the shuffle. They just blended in with the rest of Africa. So who knows? They certainly all didn't go to Ethiopia. We know that. I know, Steph, and I know. My live streams are not the same as my videos. That's why this is called Not So Random Chat, because it's not really random what we're talking about. But I mean, it's like when you just wrap your head around it, and then when you go out there, and I did, and you look, and the modern day Jewish historians tell you the same daggone thing. They say they are not the descendants of the biblical Jews, that they are these people from Khazar who became converted to Judaism from whatever they were. I assume they were pagan, you know, and they, you know, they feel like they have a similar history to the actual Israelites in that they got, you know, driven out of their land. But the difference is that God didn't bring Judaism to them. The Romans did. Hey, TR, Nari. Oh my God. TR is in the stream. We're in here having a deep conversation, TR. Talking about Khazars. I'm just trying to wrap my head around it though, guys. Thank you for coming, TR. You guys, if you do not already have TR Nari, you need to get him. You need to go check out his streams. He's about nothing but positivity. And if you want to meet a lot of really, really cool people from all over the world, you will meet them in his stream. Guaranteed. So grab him up. I'm not a growth stream, but I want y'all to grab up TR Nari because he is the reason he helped me to get to 1K, y'all. Come on now. Grab him up. Oh my God. SS Rose. Both of you guys are here. Both of you guys are here. Oh my goodness. Oh, you guys made my night. Grab up SF Rose as well. She is a producer of music extraordinaire. Grab them both up. Grab them both up. You will not regret it. I promise. Hey, Matt. How are you? Yeah, I just have this music playing in the background. So all these experimental musics tonight. This one is kind of, yeah. I swear I think I'm going to go back to my original trap music, y'all. I think that's what I'm about to do. Because I don't really care for these. So I'm going to go back to the trap music. Tatted Hearts isn't here. She can't say anything. All right, here we go. I'm going to turn it on. There we go. That's my music. That's my music. I love my music. See, now we have my music back on. Yep. This is the original music. It's back on. Back to the original music. But for me, you guys, here's my issue with what I feel is a spiritual perversion. My issue is that how do you feel about the fact that the real people are still lost? They're still lost out there. And their entire heritage, all the way up to Christ, has been stolen from them. Hi, I like that one better. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I mean, Terry, give me your viewpoint on that one. I would really like that one. You know, because we know that that the biblical Israelites were people of color, and since none of us ever turned from being people of color, then they're probably still people of color, I would think. But I just don't understand why they didn't just say that they had taken on the religion, and why lie? Why lie about it? You know what I mean? Why lie about it? And all this time. And now I would say most of the information that I'm finding out where I'm seeing it coming from Jewish historians is like only within the last 10 years. So that means that nothing really was being said of it or being made light. It was being made light of basically until about 10 years ago. For the benefit of who? Keeping us all asleep and stupid? But the black who actually are still in Israel now are descent. Yeah, I know they're from Egyptians. Yeah, that's true. Well, I mean, we all know that like the majority of the people that are in that are Egyptians now are not the original Egyptians, because Egypt got overthrown multiple times. And most of the people of color that were in Egypt got driven out. Oh, put the link to come up. All right. What's my question? Oh, what was my question? No, I was saying, what is your opinion of the fact that they've only in the last pretty much 10 years started to admit this information? That's probably part of it, Miss Mahogany. That's probably part of it. All right. So let me see if I can do this. All right, I'm going to try to do this. I don't have a mouse. Let's see if I can put the link so somebody can come up. I'm getting my mouse. Because I don't usually have the mouse on this computer. All right, so now I have the mouse. So let me see if I can put the link in the stream. See if I can put the link in the stream. Give me 1 second, guys. All right. Let's see, is this working now? Okay, yeah, here we go. All right, let me see. Copy. All right, let me see. All right. All right, I think that's the link. I think that's the link if you want to come up. So if anybody wants to come up, I believe that is the link to come up. Hey, Grum Ye. I can't. Wubbit. How are you? Hey, Ramona. Thank you for coming. So if anybody wants to come up, I think I put the link in the stream. Well, no, what I'm saying is that these people call themselves Jewish historians, the ones whose videos are posted on YouTube, and the videos aren't even the people in the videos. Somebody else is posting these videos of them saying these things. Hey, Cleo Creation, how are you? Terry, you can come up if you want to. I told you, Mahogany, you catch Mahogany over here in Ramona. I told you you catch her over here. No, it's not the Palestinians. But the thing is that the majority of the people in the world who call themselves Jewish and like who were actually born into Judaism, so to speak, are not descendants of the actual biblical Israelites. They're descendants of another group of people who converted to Judaism. Well, I don't think it's going to happen. Just like you said, every person that I know, Stefan, that's over there says the same thing. They're like, it's never going to happen. Everyone says it's never going to happen. You know, but like I said, we know that the Jews that were in Ethiopia, we know that they can trace their bloodline back. We know that they are actually part of the actual biblical Israelites. But where's the rest of them? It's not. It doesn't even make sense. I don't know what they're going to do. Don't they keep passing up the deadlines? Oh, isn't the next deadline sometime next year again? Brexit is never going to happen. Does anybody want to come up? And nobody wants to come up. You know, I'll just keep on talking. I don't have a problem with that. But yeah, no, Terry, what I was saying is seriously, you have people, I mean, you have the links between and I wish I could say the name of this group of Jews correctly, the Ashenian Jews or something like that. It's something like that. But they are some special part of the Jews. But I guess the thing is that they probably are the ones who will probably have the most purest part of that Khazar blood. I guess. I don't know. It's all political with the Brexit, to me. I don't know who it's serving, but it's certainly not serving the commoners, and it's definitely not serving Ireland or Scotland. Sure, Stefan. But I mean, what do you guys think about that? I mean, because to me, from a biblical perspective, it's just like, what the heck are you doing? Because then it makes me think about that scripture that I quoted last night from Revelations 2:9. You know, it doesn't, I didn't even see you. I didn't even see you. Let me see. I didn't even see you up here though, Terry. It didn't even show you come up. I'll have to bring you in. I know. No, but I'm saying I didn't see you backstage. Oh, wait a minute. There you are. Okay. There you are.
Hello, can you see me? Okay, can you hear me?
Yep, there you are.
Okay, all right. Hi, how are you?
All right. Let me just get back to the comments.
Okay.
So I can see everybody else. Okay. So Terry's up here now, you guys. And I'm going to push the music down just a little bit so that it's not so loud. All right.
All right.
I told you, you're my first person that I was able to put up on panel.
And I'm definitely honored to be your first. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you. But yeah,
Absolutely.
I really wanted you to kind of give your insight because you know more than I do. You know, I've only had like 2 nights worth of research, and you have years.
Well, I mean, you know, depending on where you want to start, I think the most important aspect of this is really when you look at how they took over Palestine. Really.
Mm-hmm.
There's some conflation that you might see out here about the biblical side of things, the spiritual side of things, and the actual political organization they had that eventually went into Germany before World War II. Actually, around after World War I, World War II, actually prior to the United States getting into World War II, with the world.
I was
I'm sorry.
going to say, can you just bring up the fact that I think a lot of people are confused about about Zionists and
Right.
and whether they are, whether they are for or against
Right. That's
the Jewish people. So I think you should clear that up also.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting to. Really, I mean, that was the political / military movement to find a physical home. That is where they were starting in the really around 1917, the end of World War One. They started the World Zionist Organization, and they were looking at places to go in terms of where they wanted to live, even before the Nazi Holocaust in World War II. And they attached themselves to British imperialism, which at that particular time was the foremost imperialist in terms of colony in the world at that particular point in time. And they understood that somehow, if they did that, that could usher them into a home somewhere. And actually, the first choice was Uganda in Africa. Believe it or not, it wasn't even Palestine. It wasn't anything about Israel. That was more of a spiritual understanding in a biblical sense. But they slowly started to take on this thing about finding a Jewish home. Now, certainly there have been practicing Judaics all over the world. We can't deny that.
Right.
These particular people are not the ones from Egypt, you know. And as you said earlier, they're from this place called Khazar, and and it's situated between the Caspian Sea. For those who don't know, the piece of land is still there. It's not called Khazaria now. It's between the Caspian Sea and the Black Sea, between uh, Turkey and Russia.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. And it was part,
Right.
wasn't it part of the Ottoman Empire?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely was. But by that time, they had already migrated from there. It wasn't called Khazaria at that particular point in time. That was centuries later. It
Mm-hmm.
around 700 AD, with the forces of Genghis Khan actually decimated what was left. Because one time, Khazaria actually had an empire, and it actually diminished and became just a regular nation state. And then with Genghis Khan and his forces, it just wiped out what was left of them. But there always have been uh, people coming out of there in migration, basically. Poland, Turkey, Austria, Germany, uh, all through Europe. But it's important to know that the Zionist movement was a political movement to find a home. They didn't really care as long as they had someone to help them with military arms, because what they wanted to do was take somebody's land from them. Now, the most feasible place uh, was Palestine, but before they got to that, they actually looked at Argentina. I said Brazil, and I was wrong. I had to correct myself. I think you might have seen that, Eva, on your
Yeah.
your comment section, right? Well, it was Argentina. Uh, and Uganda, since you had colonialism, European colonialism, and the European carve up, the equal reaction to that was the anti-colonial movement that the Africans were sort of getting into at that particular point. There's no way in the world they could have transplanted some Caucasians in the middle of all those Africans. That just wasn't going to work. And in fact, that probably would have quickened the pace of getting rid of colonialism even sooner, in my opinion, had they did that. So by 1920, the Palestine was put under a British mandate. People can look this up, and a British mandate is really another name for colonization. They just put Palestine under British authority. The Ottoman Empire was defeated, and the Treaty of Versailles was drawn up, and that was part of the agreement.
Right. And that was the reason why I wanted you to bring up the Ottoman Empire, because it still existed into the 20th century. That's why I wanted you to bring up that it was also in that territory.
Oh, absolutely. A part of that, they had Turkey, they had Iran, Iraq, Palestine, Jordan, all those places that you know now that are those particular Kuwait. All that was at a given point the Ottoman Empire, and they had to stop the spread going to the west, and they actually did that. And that was one of the spoils of war as they lost to the British Empire, and so the World Zionist Organization, they was just waiting for an opportunity. In comes Hitler in 1933. So they tried to play the middle of both sides, basically. They didn't really care who they were going to so they just needed a major power to help them go somewhere at that particular point in time. They
Mm-hmm.
thought that, I think they were betting on the Nazi Germany to win the war. We all know that didn't happen. 6 million people or so was killed uh, in the Nazi death camps, but it was a collaboration of the Zionist organization and the Nazis. See, these people were ushered in around 1897 by the father of Zionism, Theodore Herzl. So it was more of a political, sort of a political organization to do these kind of things. This had nothing to do with the Jewish faith or the belief in God. In fact, the point of information to note is that Theodor Herzl, the father of Zionism, and this started in
Mm-hmm.
1807, the man was an atheist. So anybody can look that up. They'll probably see that themselves. You can verify that. But it got to the point where 1917, Arthur Balfour, who was the Secretary of the Colonies for the British Empire, wrote a declaration called the Balfour Declaration. In that document, they had pledged to uh, sort of, without anyone's permission, this is how European imperialism works, how white supremacy works. In that document, they basically said, and they used the word Jews, but it was really a code for the Zionists. They were going to get,
Oh.
pardon me.
I said, oh.
Yeah, yeah. Um, they intended to give Palestine at the earliest point, which ended up being 1948, by the way. You can also look that up. But that's when the Israeli flag sort of was raised as a nation state. They wanted to give it to the Jews as a nation state. See, right then and there, they had concocted this, excuse me, this fake belief that they were the people who came out of Egypt, the exodus out of Egypt, in terms of, and so therefore that land was promised to them by God, and they're just fulfilling biblical prophecy. That was uh, the story that they started to propagate everywhere. Even the United States had a lot to do with it, even though they were being turned away from the United States as well at one particular point in time, by and large. And it actually worked. It actually worked. They used they used uh, what amounted to military gains, really, to go in and wipe out a lot of the Palestinians. They ended up driving out about 800,000 to a million Palestinians between 1920 and, I'll say, 1945. Drove them in a place like Jordan, you know what I mean, and Iraq, into Egypt, into Algeria and places like that, where many are still now some of their descendants of those days. And they functionally took over Palestine and changed the name to Israel. It's been a secular state. It has nothing to do with um, the Jewish faith, although there's a lot of people there that are practicing Judaics. They're really converts, though. The Khazars, what they are. And I'll go, and let me just go back a minute, if I may, that so I can kind of show what happened, how these people became Jews. Because at one time you had the Eastern Province, which was I'm trying to remember where that was. I might have to look that up. The Byzantine Empire was the Eastern Province of the Roman Empire. And I can't remember right now, and I'm sorry, it's a blank where it was geographically on the map.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had them, the pressure of becoming Christians, which was very, very important, I guess, at that time, the nations, that you chose a religion. And then, and this is around the 7th century. I would say 639 AD. You had the Arab Islamic movement throughout the world at that particular time, especially Africa, Northern and West Africa. And it was coming up that particular way up north. And they really had to choose or be annihilated by one or the other. And they chose neither. They actually chose the Jewish faith, which actually staved off both sides diplomatically. And so that's really how they became actually Jews as converts. Before that, they did have a religion. It was a pagan religion, basically. It had nothing to do with monotheism, though. But at that particular time, that was a political move for them to do that, and it actually worked. Okay.
And it was basically to save their lives.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. Although they did get wiped out by the forces of Genghis Khan later on, but yes, they had to. It was an uneasy alliance at that particular time because they were a very powerful empire at one time. Believe it or not, the Khazars were. They were a force to be reckoned with, but they're very remote in history. You don't see them in history books anywhere at all. I found this information out before the internet. I was looking at this stuff like in the 90s. Taking books out of the library, going to
yeah, because all the stuff that's on the internet is coming from the libraries.
Oh, absolutely, yes. But it was designed, this movement that actually secured Israel for the secular state that's still there now, that's perpetuating terrorism on the Palestinians. I mean, wholesale terrorism. I mean, and that's what ticked me off. It was on 2 points that I started really getting serious about this particular issue. One, when I found out just through our own African history, understanding that the actual Jews are the ones from Ethiopia. Then I saw them appropriating a religion that didn't belong to them, but then putting it off as if they're the ones that came out of Egypt. I had a problem with that, so I felt, it became my business to understand why that was. Why were they using Judaism to the point to where the propaganda was so false and people were believing that. People believe that here. That God,
millions of Christians believe that they are, the rightful people that are supposed to be there.
Absolutely. That's the ignorance. That's how deep the ignorance is, because they don't do the research. They just believe basically what somebody tells them behind the pulpit. They think those are the people in the Bible that they're talking about. They actually believe that. So I think we have to be correct in that, because number one, it's an African religion. Number two, we're struggling for independence in this earth, as far as I'm concerned. And as somebody who follows a revolutionary ideology and understanding our solutions, part of that is putting out the truth and smashing the lies. I mean, that's our weapon right now. I mean, we definitely are not to the point where we can effectuate a military offensive. Not yet, anyway. But we certainly can tell the truth, and no matter where it leads, we can't. I just don't believe that we cannot stand idle, knowing the truth and not fighting. The lies that's been told.
And
these people have atomic weapons in their disposal. They're given billions of dollars a year in terms of technological and aid from the United States. I mean, I'm talking about billions and billions of dollars.
And every citizen in that country has to serve mandatory 2 years in the Israelite army. They all have to, male and female. No one is exempt. So every citizen there is trained to be a soldier.
Absolutely. Very well trained, by the way.
I know.
Yeah. They've disabled that region amongst those Arab people for at least the last 70 years.
Well, it's about the resource. I mean, because the Bible says it was the land of milk and honey, the resource. There's resources there.
Right. Yes. But it's also a strategic area for Western imperialism too, though.
True.
Yeah, it's really the it's really the front door to the rest of the area that they would love to annex. A lot of people don't know that. I call it occupied Palestine. I really don't actually like to call it Israel, but for this purpose, I'll refer to it. They have a 20-mile sort of a military setup across the borders of their neighbors. Now, what nation state does that without the other countries declaring that act of war? Anybody?
Right.
That? But that, yes, they have a military occupation at 20 miles, or probably more now. That is annexationist, is what it is. I mean,
And
at some point,
that whole fight over Jerusalem.
well, because they're the ones who are always people are saying that they're the ones who are being attacked and they have to be protected, and they have a right to exist. Because the premise is they're the ones that Moses led out of Egypt, and they're the ones that everybody is attacking.
But it's a falsehood. It's a falsehood.
Right. See, I'm supposed to be anti-Semitic because I tell the truth. If I say someone stubbed their toe in Israel, I'm anti-Semitic. So they have all these barriers that people that give you the impression that you can't say anything because these people are precious and they are protected, absolutely, by the
But then the crazy thing is that the protection is not really from God.
No.
And then it's not from God. And then the other thing is that they have fed this lie to their own people too.
Oh yeah,
these people think that they are something that they are not.
Right. I mean, they're converts. I mean, anybody, obviously, I think I said this before and you had reiterated, anybody can be a Jew, but they're not.
Sammy Davis Jr. was a Jew.
Pardon me?
Sammy Davis Jr. practiced Judaism.
Right, he's a convert. Yeah. I mean, the only, and to my knowledge, in my research, the only people who are born a Jew are those out of Ethiopia. And so
I would say that would probably be the case, even though this other people practices all of the Jewish traditions.
Well, yeah. I mean, you have the Ashkenazis, you have the Sephardims, you have the Hasidics. You have different. I attribute that to a certain culture more than anything else. But yes, I mean, if they're truly practicing Judaic.
So then you know what?
In my opinion, if you're practicing Judaic, it makes you a Jew, but it doesn't mean that they're entitled to Palestine because they're not the Semites. That's the key here.
But that also explains Kabbalah to me, because Kabbalah, I couldn't understand how could Kabbalah get into a faith that came from God, but these people aren't the people that God gave the faith to.
Right.
So it would be easy for them to bring that other mystic stuff into it, bring them back in that paganism.
Right. See, I mean, if that were the case, if they were so holy, they wouldn't continually bomb Palestine settlements that earlier they all agreed on being places where they could live. I mean, they make these little ad hoc treaties, and yet suddenly they start bombing these people and shooting. You know what I mean? These people, military armaments.
They're making this look like it's a religious war to the rest of the world, but it's not really a religious war because, again, they are not the biblical Israelites.
Right. That's the argument that people who are for it will tell you. the ignorant ones that are in the United States who think they have a leg to stand on, who think they're actually arguing from a foreign position. That's what they'll say. You know what I mean? The only thing I always hear, oh God, this some of the black church folks will say, oh well, God gave them people that land. That's all they know. They think that's who these people are talking about
Because they don't know anything about the Khazars.
no, they don't know anything about Zionism at all. That's the political ideology, really.
Yeah, the Zionism part. Yeah, I know that the thing is because it's coming out of the people that are part of these people. They link it back to them and
Right.
make it the one and the same, and they're not the same thing.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, look, they initiated as early as 1948 this right of return. And they were talking about Caucasians. Anybody who claimed to be the descendants out of Egypt. I believe they used Abraham though. That was their story and how they actually got into Egypt.
Abraham was black.
Right. Thank you. Well, we know that's not the case because he was Negro. So, and so they have this right of return, and it was every Caucasian that actually feel that they're Jew, that believe in terms of them ruling over Palestinians, and
Abraham came out of Canaan, which is modern day Egypt. Right. He was black.
Right. And somehow garnering this worldwide sympathy that's had a linear effect on the world all this time can therefore come back and claim brotherhood inside of
Israel. The thing is that we know that the biblical Israel actually did come out of it came out of part of Canaan. It was part of Canaan.
Yes.
It was a split part that was given to them by God. And then the rest of it was Egypt.
Right.
That's the reason why Jesus' family was able to go over to Egypt.
Absolutely.
And blend in.
Absolutely. No way he could have been a Caucasian doing it. Which is definitely another issue. And I tell people all the time, I don't know specifically what he was, but I know he could not be white for sure.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the reason why, when they draw the picture of him being Middle Eastern, I'm like, okay, I'll let you have that because we don't really know. We know that would still make him a person of color.
Right. Well, let me just say this though, just to make this clear. They came and took over Palestine by raw and naked terrorists, point blank in the story. That's what it was. It was a collusion, primarily of Great Britain and to a lesser extent the United States. I mean, so that's really how they got. I mean, they were killing.
Stephen was just mentioning in the chat the Balfour Treaty.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Which is the other point. Yes. So because they talk about this Messiah. No. Arthur Balfour is your Messiah. That's who that when he wrote, he was the secretary of the British colony at that particular time, and he wrote that he made sure that they made sure that document was worldwide news. So they knew at some point that they were going to be given Palestine, and they started to immigrate there. They were really sneaking in, and because they've always been up until 1948 really their numbers, their population numbers have always been small. I think at that particular time in 1917, there's a United Nations statistics of Palestine, of the racial breakdown. They were something like anywhere from 5 to 8% of the population at that time when they started rolling in there and started massing for the terrorist attack that started to be vented on the Palestinians. You'll find, and it's a UN report. You can find it. I'm sure you probably can find it online. But they were something like 8% of the population. So they were never up until that point, a majority in the first place. You see, so but once the flag was raised in 1948, of course it was a fait accompli at that point. You know, they had the
They were
uh,
squatters.
yes, they you know they had the help of the permanent help in terms of international agreements and treaties with the United States, Great Britain, and other Western nations at that point. This is where we are now. But the Palestinians created in '67. They created the PLO.
Yep, I know.
So 1967. So
Palestinians Liberation Organization.
so they did fight back uh, diplomatically, uh, militarily as well, and in terms of the actual
This is
the
so
UN.
this is so deep because basically they made up their existence. They basically made up them being the same people that
Right.
were put out of that land. Man.
Right. See, that's the insult to injury directly to us, but to everyone else that falls for it, of course. But I think that was aimed directly at us because that's our historic story of blacks, of Africans. So we also know that it was about 600,000 or so that came out of Egypt through the Exodus led by Moses and Joshua. And 97% of those people were Negroid, and about 3% was sort of a swarthy Assyrian stock. So, I mean, even there. So, yeah. And you can, if you get this book called Moses and Monotheism, and it was written by Sigmund Freud, by the way. It's a very remote. I don't know why it's not widely talked about and published. I used to have that book. I gave it to someone to read. I never got it back, but it's called Moses and Monotheism. Check that book out.
I shall.
Yeah, it's a good reference. It'll tell you about that. 600, about 600,000, 97% of those people look like you and me, sis.
Oh yeah,
So
that.
So we know this has been a big masquerade, but when you have the wherewithal to carry out your acts of aggression and then hide your hand and act like, you didn't do anything wrong. If anybody says anything, they're anti-Semitic, and it's worked up to this point. It worked very well for you.
Hey,
But not for much longer. I think the key to straightening out a lot of the evil in this world is the unification of the African continent. I think at some point, and that's the area that I particularly, that's my front. Once Africa is liberated from foreign control, united, and under a union government, the ball game changes for all of
them. The thing is that my only thing is that a lot of times when the continent countries become independent, then they still have to rely on foreign resources for an extended period of time.
Not so. I'm talking about. Well, as it stands now, because they deal with individual companies.
That's what I'm saying.
But in terms of I'm talking about the solutions that we're working on now.
You mean getting the African nations to come together?
Right, under a union government for the entire country.
Yeah,
that would be.
You mean them coming together so that you don't have people from Kenya and Uganda going to South Africa and getting shot in the street?
Right.
Which was going on a couple of months ago. I don't know if it's still going on.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of work that's going on, but at this particular point, there really is an intensification of that. You know what I mean? I mean, things are starting to speed up a little bit. I think when we saw the expulsion of the African Union ambassador to the United States, the sister from I can't remember where she's from right now, but She went to school in the United States. She went to Meharry Medical College. She was
Mm-hmm.
one of the her, she's saying some of the same things here about what has happened to Africa. Some of the things that I've said in terms of how they were colonized and carved up by 6 European countries.
Well,
And,
yeah, because you can look
pardon
at the stuff, even though apartheid is no longer in South Africa. Now you have the issues with people that are in South Africa not wanting anybody that's from any place else in that country. It's like there's some type of nationalism when these people are running, from war, literally, and
Right.
then they're coming, they're there as law-abiding citizens who are actually working and paying their taxes, and you have people with guns shooting them down in the street.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, that's it. We have to intensify the struggle there, because the fact of the matter, it just forestalls the solution to all these things, which is continental unification. And I think as the dynamic between the situation with the land question in South Africa, the actual people who are the foreign financial firms that are there, and you'll find this out in every African country, the economies are actually dominated by foreign products. See, they have everything they need to actually be self-sufficient in terms of industrialization, which will happen with continental unification. That implies integration of economics. But at this particular point, I think is really used to forestall what they intend to happen right now in terms of what the EFF is doing in terms of the land question. Talk about the land, taking this land without compensation at this particular point. I think it's just something that's used to actually put a wedge in that and forestall the actual situation in terms of the organized distribution of wealth where it should go. You got 72% of Africans, but they're living on less than 20% of the land. That's ridiculous. Well, you have a very small, number of whites controlling most of the most consequential areas of the economy. And I think that's really the problem. I think that's the backdrop to what you're saying.
And then the other thing is all the gold and all the diamonds on the continent,
Right.
and how everybody else owns the gold and owns the diamonds except for the people that actually live there.
Exactly. Yeah, all of them. All the areas of industry, mining, uh, fishing, banking. These things are ran by foreign firms. Why you have a lot of different currencies running around Africa right now? French franc, the British pound in certain areas. I mean, it's just totally ridiculous.
Yeah, and that's what you have Africans speaking French.
Right. Which is the problem. But I can tell you though, and I know we're getting afar of the Zionism, we can get back to it, but I think it has a connection because, Judaism was birthed in Africa. So to me, that's an African problem and needs an African solution. So
and that's the crazy thing. Both Judaism and Christianity were both birthed on the continent.
Right.
And each one of them has been perverted.
Yeah.
By other people. Mainly Europeans.
Absolutely. So we have I mean, we have to be committed to the truth first and foremost before we do anything else. I mean that tends to indicate the direction that we have to go to actually solve the problem, in my opinion.
That's why you have so many people that want to go back to the continent.
Yeah.
Because it's not just you. I mean, it's not. I don't know if it's where I want to go, but I don't because as I think about the things with with autism, and I also think about the fact that it grieves me so much that the entire continent it has such a stigma, but there's so many of our kids, so many of our kids have this, and they don't have the resources, the health resources that are available somewhere like here.
Right.
Country by country, it's just it's frustrating. So I can't even say no, I won't end up over there because I don't know where God's gonna take me, with me advocating.
Well, the solution will not require, and that's fine, sis. The solution will not require back to Africa, in terms of a awakening. We're not saying that. I mean, I think
Angel, let me see. Angel wants to come up. Let me let Angel come up. Let me just let him up 1 second.
Hey.
Hey, Angel.
It was great meeting you like a week ago, and I saw that you subscribed to my channel. Great to meet you, and looking forward to getting to know you more.
That's fine. It's fine. We're just actually we're just talking about Zionism and some other things. You're welcome to join the conversation, or if you just want to sit there and if you want to talk about something else, let us know what you want. What you wanted to add to the conversation.
Sure.
Okay. All right, Terry, you can go ahead and continue.
Oh, I just wanted to return to the topic on Judaism and the fact that because it was birthed in Africa, those I work with politically and myself, we feel that it's an African. I mean, it's our business. They've made it our business when we discovered that indeed is the case. And as I said earlier, it needs an African solution to it. No one's trying to say that. This is not a roundabout way of saying that they shouldn't be somewhere in the world. But when you receive a situation through ill-gotten gains and lies, the truth needs to be told, whether anybody likes it or not. See, it's almost as if, in my opinion, that they think that these people are these perpetual victims, and people that hate them automatically wants to come and gather them up so they know where they are and do away with them. That's not the case.
But then my question is, I wonder what's going on with the Ethiopian Jews that are actually back in Israel. What's happening with them?
You can see it on YouTube. They're treated like second-class citizens, being spat on and beat up, killed in some places. It's like an apartheid situation for them there, sis. To be honest with you, the ones that are still there,
and they're the rightful people.
Yeah, some of them are being told to go back to, and I don't think this is the declaration of the government, although I'm sure there's many elements, factions that believe this there, but it's not official. But they're being told by some of the people to get out and go back to Africa. So all the people who are so-called Black Jews who have immigrated there, who thought that right of return policy meant them. It meant people who are Caucasian that felt that way about Israel, it being a secular state. That was really for them. Somehow those blacks and they're not. And it's being proved to them now, by and large, there now. There's a lot of
it's not the biblical state of Israel. This is a secular political state of Israel that has nothing to do with the Bible. No matter how much they try to make it about that.
Exactly right. That's exactly what we're saying. Exactly. But they want you and me to think that it is, though. See, so Yeah, so they're really pimping religion on one hand, but on the other hand, they're basically white supremacists who are ruling by the gun against the Palestinians and anybody else that comes in there and opposes.
That's just crazy. And then they use the Catholic Church is in cahoots.
Yeah, sure they are. Yeah. Well, they're all they're all tied in together internationally in terms of national agreement.
Because I already talked about the fact that that Hitler was Roman Catholic,
Okay.
and the Jesuits
Right.
were basically running him.
Right. And see, they were trying to position themselves in the 30s to get some help in securing Palestine, but of course it didn't happen. My political opinion has always been: look, Germany at that point in time was the people who killed 6 million of you. And you need a nation state. That's what they should have took their nation. To me, and to me, it would have been. I think it'd been justified based on what happened. But I later found out that the Zionists themselves collaborated with the Nazis, so those 6 million Jews could be killed in the first place. A lot of people don't want to talk about that; they don't even know about it. But that is the truth. One reference to that, by the way, anybody's interested, is this book, and listen closely. It's called Zionism in the Age of Dictators. It was written by Lenny Brenner. The man's a Jew. He's a Jew himself, so he's from there. So, very, very well written, very, very well researched book. Wow. So I think book to read. Yes, if you want to know about this kind of stuff, it's all in there. It's all verified.
That so, and what you said just kind of confirmed what I was feeling probably was happening to the Ethiopian Jews, and why so many of them are still in Ethiopia.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they obviously claiming that's their homeland, but they're not in power. See,
and they had to have some rabbi to say, oh yeah, okay, yeah, it's okay for them to come in. So if some of you are claiming to be from the tribe of Dan and these people are from the tribe of Dan, how are you from the same tribe?
Right. Well, on one hand, it looks like it might very well, if you don't know the background, it looks like it does include everyone who, regardless of race, because that's what they promulgate. But there's a whole nother thing. And there's also a history. We don't have to talk about this now, but there's a history between Zionist Israel and the former apartheid nation. That could be another lie if you like.
Oh yeah. With South Africa, I can only imagine.
Yeah, we talk about that too. Not now, but I don't want to confuse anyone. I know we're specifically talking about how Judaism was put forth. And
I remember when I was in college, we sat in at Bovard at USC,
right?
Because we forced the university to divest from South Africa.
Right.
So yeah.
So there's, in fact, there I could another time, but there's letters. There's letters from Jan Smuts, who was the prime minister during the early part of the 20th century, and Wiseman, who was the first president.
Yeah, because apartheid served a lot of other nations.
Right.
It served them to keep that way. Right.
We have documented correspondence between the two. Yeah.
And for a long time, the United States turned a blind eye to it.
Yeah, of course they must.
They had because they had their own problems.
Yeah. Well, it's very, very in terms of. I don't think people understand imperialism. They really ought to look that up. I think, even though I'm not a Leninist, I have. He wrote a book called Imperialism: the Highest Stage of Capitalism, and his in that book he gave a great definition of imperialism, people really ought to understand it. That's really what's at work here. To be honest with you, it's a way to secure an empire.
Well, it looks
And
like it to me. As scary as it seems, it with all of the stuff that's going on with them trying to impeach the current administration, don't think it's going to happen. But just the fact that they're doing all of the things that they're doing still puts
right,
a black mark on him. But he's definitely trying to do something. And many people look at our country as an imperialist nation, whether we want to see it that way or not.
let me just read this definition that Lenin gave in his book, if I may.
Yes.
Imperialism, high stage of capitalism. This is how he summarizes it. He wrote this book in 1917. Very, very relevant. Imperialism is capitalism is at the stage of development in which the domination of monopolies and finance capital has taken shape, in which the export of capital has acquired pronounced importance, in which the division of the world by the international trust has begun, and in which the partition of all the territory of the earth by the greatest capitalist countries have been completed. So when we see that going on with countries being annexed and carved up, and Palestine was that as well.
Yeah.
That's what we're seeing. That's what we're seeing.
Oh yeah, I mean, because you're even seeing, having the border walls and everything. Even though people want to say that that's all Trump, it's not a new idea in the United States. Unfortunately, guys, he's just trying to put it forth because, as you can see, there were already walls.
and see all the Zionists did by using Judaism sort of as a shield, because they weren't religious, as we all know. You and I agreed. They attached themselves to British imperialism. After it was too late for Nazi Germany, they were defeated. But once they attached themselves to British imperialism, it was a fait accompli at that particular time.
Hitler turned on them.
Right. Well, yeah, but the Zionists helped him do what he did. Those people, yes. Well, he actually was talking to Zionist leaders of the World Zionist Organization. Believe it or not, they were coming in and out of Germany in anywhere from 33, even in the 40s, when America got into the war. But even prior to the war, so I mean, they were trying to hedge their bets on who could help them get a homeland, and they thought at that particular point in time. They say he was chancellor in 1933. They got an audience. They got an audience. See, they didn't like the fact that those people who called themselves Jews in Germany were usurers, which meant that, and I think we had covered this last time, anywhere where there was money, that's where they were. That was the problem. They had everything. They had the banks, they had loans, they had land.
And where are they now? They're usuries.
Right, it still are, exactly. And that's what. And I'm not, I'm not trying to.
And that, and when you go and that is what I was talking about when I was talking about what it said in the Book of Revelations about about the riches,
right,
and them calling themselves Jews,
right,
but actually being from the synagogue of Satan.
Right. Yeah, I did get that. Yes, absolutely.
Yep.
But let me just say, I'm not in any way justifying Nazism at all.
No,
I don't like us either. But I have to tell the truth here in terms of what they did, in terms of the moves that they were making at that particular time, and it's all. That's
the part that they want, and that's the part that they want to hide in the history is that it was, I mean, just like with our ancestors, it was their own people. Right. That put them, that helped get them in those chambers, just like it was our own people that helped put us in put our ancestors into slavery.
Absolutely. I mean, Africa was controlled by that time by foreign powers, lock, stock, and barrel. You had the apartheid government that was, and I'm talking in the early part of the 20th century, that had beat the actual when they had the war that established the Union of South Africa, and over here, our people over here were victims of Jim Crow. So we were nowhere in the picture in terms of being a factor. But I'm just here to tell the truth about it. I have no ill will toward people who are Jews, because Judaism is an African religion. I mean, there can be converts, but we have to be honest. So I can't be anti myself as an African. I know that those people are not Semites, so they may call themselves that, but they're not. So
problem is that they've been told this and they believe it.
Right. So we, again, I'm just emphasizing that we have to tell the truth of what it is. I think
it's like they've been told this lie and they believe this lie, and it's like, so basically they ignore the fact that their ancestors came from this other place,
Right.
But when you do the genealogy, that's why all these people come in this thing, and somehow, anyway.
Well, I mean, it depends on, their education apparatus. They may be told the same thing in terms of the lies, and so that's the influence they're going to have. Probably. I'm guessing. I've never been to Israel, but that's probably why. I mean, you have to educate people in certain ways.
The only way it would work, it would be basically the ones that are in Israel and the ones that are here and the ones that are all over Europe all believe the same thing.
Right. I mean, and they're in a lot of places. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to begrudge them to. I mean, they can practice Judaism. They can have at it. I'm not.
Yeah, and that's not even the issue. The issue is that they've been told a lie and they believe this lie, and the lie was all for political purposes, not for religious purposes. No. And it's like, and when the end comes,
right,
when God comes back, just saying,
right, absolutely. And so, I mean, you can't, to me, I mean, you can't justify running a country by being a terrorist to the people who were there before you, and justifying it, calling them terrorists when all they do is throw rocks. I think when some of those people got to the point where they started strapping the bombs to themselves, I think that's where their struggle led. I think at that point they felt they're justified in taking it to that particular level because of what has happened all that particular time. I wouldn't, get me wrong. I mean, I don't think anybody should blow themselves up.
It's deception that to the world, it looks like this is
right
because of the people. It looks like because of that original lie, it looks to the world like the descendants of Ishmael are fighting against this descendants of Isaac, but that's not what's going on.
Right. These crazy people just want to take out these whites. That's not true. That's not true at all. I think that's their manner of fighting back. When that was really something that was prominent. I'm not sure to what degree it is now, because I don't hear much about it in the news. They control the narrative though in the news, international news, Voice of America.
Well, the reason is because, I mean, like I said yesterday, Hollywood is controlled in this country. I mean, they control everything in this country too. And they're not, and this isn't even Israel. You have the bulk of these people controlling everything, and they're probably part of all of those families. Right.
So yeah. But it is a very strategic spot for the Western country to launch any attack on people in that particular region, so-called Middle East. And I think just the fact that government's there, to me, is just a fundamental disruption and destabilization anyway. I mean, you put these people who are basically troublemakers who have a 20-mile occupation zone in across the borders of their neighbors. Come on, and that's not an act of war to me. I mean, no one talks about that. Sis. No one even knows that, but that's true. Into Jordan and all those bordering companies, those border countries there. Yes, they have occupation zones on their side of the border. I
Hey,
mean, so how you?
I just want to
I'm
say,
sorry.
hey, Sue, I see you. I see you in the chat. I know you're listening and you can't chat and you can't type in the chat. I just want you to know I see that you're there.
I mean, I can go on mute because I know.
No, go ahead. You continue.
Well, no, I'm just saying that. I mean, they do so many things that's antagonistic, but yet, the world, thinks that they're perpetual victims. And I think the truth is being probably more revealed now than ever, but there's still a lot of people that still aloof, that still refuse to see that and think that anything you say against them, any truth makes you anti-Jewish, anti-Semitic. And again, we're not talking. So really, what a lot of times I see, in terms of pundits on TV sometimes, or people who give these opinions, they tend to mix up Zionism and Judaism and make them one and the same. So if you're anti-Zionist, you're still anti-Semitic, which is untrue because they're two different things. But we just explained the differences.
Because this isn't even about the religion. This is about how the politics has used the religion for political reasons.
Right. Absolutely, that's exactly what it is. But they'll keep telling the world that it's the opposite, though. That you're just, I mean, they say it in such a convincing term, that if you don't know this information, if you're not privy to it, then it's easy to believe that. Believe it or not, they're very, very convincing. That they're the only authority of their struggle. Their struggle was a struggle of independence, but it was really one of terrorism, basically. That's how it's written. When they fought and went in there and started killing up Palestinians, I'm telling you, their books say, even over here, that was an independence movement. That's, it's ridiculous. I mean, they ran 800,000 to 1 million Palestinians out of Palestine. You know what I mean?
Right.
And those who are still around,
every citizen is a soldier, so every citizen can keep that land for them for that very reason.
Yeah, they lost their land. People, they left homes, lands, anything they had, livestock, whatever they had. Yeah, they had to go.
Wow.
Because these people was coming with tanks and guns, and howitzers and things. So, you know what I mean? They had armaments.
They had help.
They had help. Yeah, they did. Yeah, it was Britain, Great Britain, and then as I said earlier, to a lesser extent, the United States. But Britain really was the benefactor here.
Right, and that was the thing. That's what Stephan was talking about. He said, there's things in our history that he said that we're not proud of, and that's indicating that's one of them. It's like because you really see, because the thing is that I mean, we're just, normal citizens, and we're just observing all of this stuff. But really, they're masking a lot of this stuff under religion. And it's not really religion. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with taking over a territory unjustifiably.
I mean, a lot of that could be extended to some of the areas of the economy that they control. They have control of some of the products that we see on television and the theater, the movies, and things of that nature, where they garner a lot of capital and profit. But that's also
everything's very controlled in Israel. I mean, and it's very similar to how everything is controlled in China.
So, I think, we to me, we have a duty to struggle against evil wherever it is. But if it's using our heritage, then it makes it our business to fight it. So my thing is that, um, yes, they're a secular state. You know, they took Palestine by terrorism, uh, and they maintain it as such, and they're allowed to do so, and they're protected by their benefactors. You know, they can still perpetuate what they continue to do and get and be protected at the same time.
Well,
I
yeah,
have a problem with it.
well, yeah, because up until this president, there really was not that type of reception to Israel. But he's, you know, buddy, you know, because I feel because of his, he has a son-in-law who is supposed, is Jewish,
Right,
so, but the prime minister of Israel is not to be trusted.
right.
Not to be
Well, I mean,
trusted.
well, they've done a good job by confusing the categories of race and religion. So that's why the they and their situation would be, I believe, tenuous if people understood the truth from the beginning. But it's been bolstered by the perpetuation and the institution of these things that they've told that are untrue, and it just perpetuates the problem. They're destabilizing effect in that area. You know, getting deposited amongst all those Arabs, and try to act like they've always been there. I've heard that one too. Oh,
It
they've
just,
always been there. And yeah,
but
but
just
they've never been
knowing the
there in
truth, just knowing the
terms.
truth, it's like then when you look at biblical prophecy, it just changes what you thought you knew.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I mean, I hate to bust bubbles. I know I'll probably people
It's
don't
no,
like
I'm
that.
I'm just saying it
Yeah.
it makes sense of certain things that I've heard, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, of course.
That
Yeah,
I
of course.
didn't that I was like, they tripping
Right. I
about.
mean,
I mean, but I mean, I always, knew that, we were all up in the word. So that's not even my issue. My issue is just people using religion for deceptive reason. And it doesn't matter who it is, because you have the same thing going on within Christianity. That's the reason why you have so many people of color who reject it.
I'll play devil's advocate as you talk.
Huh?
I'll play devil's advocate just to kind of drive the point home.
Go
You're
ahead.
anti-Semitic. You're anti-Semitic. You're anti-Semitic. You don't like Jews. You want you want Israel to be destroyed, don't you?
Yeah, no, not
See,
really.
yeah, yes, you do. Yeah. They'll argue. I've gotten this kind of stuff.
But see, it's like, but the thing is all I'm doing. I'm simply asking questions, and I'm simply
Anti-Semitic, right?
drawing my conclusions based on what I'm finding out.
Anti-Semitic, don't matter. See, they're not hearing any. I agree with you. They don't hear none of that. They don't care. If they said it matters. But when you say it, it doesn't exist. You're anti-Semitic. I'm going to tell the ADL on you. Yeah.
Yeah.
That you run against. See, I'm not trying to argue with those people though. I'm speaking to Africans. That's what I'm speaking. I'm speaking to people who look like me. I'm not speaking to them. I'm not arguing to them at them.
Yeah, and it's
Tell
not
them,
even
I can tell them.
it's not even an argument. It's simply
Well,
I'm a seeker of the truth.
well, yeah, okay.
I'm a
It's
truth
that as well, but yeah.
and
I
some
mean, and they will.
and sometimes the truth is not what everybody else wants to hear.
Right.
Especially if it
Sure can.
contradicts what you've been saying and contradicts your agenda, because if your agenda is to keep that territory then you have to have a justification for it.
Right. Of course.
And the only one that anyone would accept would be the one that they gave.
Right. Despite the fact that nothing you and I say here will change the status. We wake up in the morning, they'll still be in charge of Occupy Palestine. As
Yep.
it, so it won't change anything. But see, it's just the potential of those who agree with it, and something getting to the point to where you can do something about it. They're thinking
But more, but the thing is that more and more people are. I said that's the wonderful thing about the internet.
Yes, and I'm pleasantly surprised going around seeing certain channels and people talking about it, like, damn, because a lot of things I got was from books in the 90s, before the internet age, and because of the political organization that I'm part of, and understanding that was our religion, and it kind of my study of history brought me to that. And I was studying European history, and I ran into it. I didn't have to go through Africa to do that. But once I did go through Africa, I saw it that way too. I'm like, wow, So in terms of what Israel, where their capital interests and investments are, in terms of those who were invested in South Africa, United States, other places. So once I saw that they had a lot to do with the diamonds and the gold in Africa, and a lot of that is from foreign firms that are owned by the Oppenheimer Consortium. We won't go into that tonight. We'll go into that some other time. But this octopus, this tentacle octopus called the Oppenheimer Consortium, they really control all the consequential wealth of Africa, mostly in mining and precious metals, and other ancillary industries. These raw materials are then bought to refining centers in Western nations, and then put out as commodity items in manufacturing. But once I saw that, how far it goes, I'm like, geez, man. I mean, they have a monopoly. They're part of the monopoly, and I see why the difference between there's such a wide gap between the haves and have-nots. I started to see that in my mind. I started to form. Like, good Lord, no wonder. And no one was talking about it. And so when we started talking about it, people were calling us anti-Semitic, communist, it had nothing to do with none of that. You could tell they didn't know what the hell they were talking about. But it was just hilarious to hear that. But we weren't scared to tell the truth. So, and only because of the fact that Judaism was birthed in Africa. If they didn't use that, we probably still would speak out against injustice and oppression, but not this deeply. But they're using our religion. I think that makes it a African or /Black, those who are so inclined. It makes it our business to me, and so that's why I took the position that I did, and politically, in terms of the organization that I've been in for a while.
Are you okay, Angel?
I was just reading the chat and I was giggling at your little mess up there, DC.
Oh yeah.
But hey, I can go on mute if the other guy wants to say something. I don't want to.
The reason why I was so quiet for a lot of the time that I've been on here is because you guys were talking about stuff that I don't even know or ever heard of, because I don't keep up with history. I don't go back in history because a lot of times it's stuff that doesn't interest me, and I'm all about the here and now. And if there's anything history format that I hear about, it's something that people tell or show me.
Well, yeah. Well, I will say it definitely affects us as we speak, though. But
yeah. But I'm all about the here and now. I'm not too worried about the past from so long ago.
I understand.
Yeah. And basically what we're doing is we're talking about how that is impacting what's going on right now.
Ah, makes sense.
It has a linear effect, you see.
Oh.
If you're in position to have a monopoly of an economy that people are supposed to have access to, and that kind of tells us why the access of Black people, by and large, have a very, very limited uh, access to the means of production. And these are some of the things why. I mean, kind of lead to that. Even though the Palestinians, are, get shot, beat, killed, uh, in prison. You know, what I mean, they don't have any state power. They don't have any state government. Even though there have been suggestions to make it a nation state that could be divided, it would make it worse though, because Zionism has always been aggressive. It's
And
always
it doesn't seem like they're going to come to any agreement about Jerusalem at all.
no, because they want it all. See, they want it all. So no, they're not. And here's the thing: people don't understand about imperialism. If they don't remember nothing else, then I would ask people to study the concept itself.
You know they're trying to rebuild that temple, right?
No, I didn't actually.
The temple, yep.
Right.
Solomon's temple, David's temple.
Right. Okay.
They're trying to rebuild it because that's the wall that everybody goes to.
Oh, right. Okay. Oh, okay. I didn't know that it was damaged or something. I had no idea.
It was damaged by that earth, but it was damaged in I think in the 3rd century.
Oh, okay.
And all you have is that wall now.
Okay.
So they want they want to rebuild it. And that's also part of the thing, that's what I'm saying. They're trying to pull religious things into this political thing.
Right. Well, the thing is to confound your thinking. That's really what with that whole particular story that they concocted over the decades. They've refined, I should say. But the thing about confusion, out of confusion comes clarity.
Mm-hmm.
And not for very long can you fool all the people. At some point, somebody's going to know the truth. You know what I mean? And so I'm just happy that more people know it. I was pleasantly shocked. I was like, wow, a lot of people know this now. And I know we can attribute that, rightfully so, to the internet. It doesn't matter to me. Whatever way you find it out, I'm fine with it. You know what I mean? But it depends on what you do with the information. What I encourage people to join organizations struggling for the people, really.
But the thing is that regardless of what your ethnicity is, all eyes are going to be on Israel in a minute.
Well, yeah. I mean,
and that is why this information is valuable.
Right. I mean, long as they're protected by, the superpower, United States, and they'll be around for a while. But I think the no pun intended, the Trump card is the unification of Africa, because there's a lot Africa can do with the right approach to government and world affairs. It would have to be liberated from the foreign forces that are currently ruling it now, and in these individual nations like the French, the 14 French colonies, Britain. You got Belgium and the Congo, Portuguese and Zambia and Angola, and all. They have to
become truly independent nations like they once were.
Right now, I will say this. I won't go too much into that now, but we do have a framework for all that. We're not working from scratch. We have a framework that's been at least a theoretical framework that's been hammered out. So, the struggle needs to be intensified within Africa for that to happen. And we see some things happening right now again with can't remember her name, Dr. Arcana.
Yeah, they have to be open to it.
Yeah, well, with her firing, because she spoke out against the 14 French, how the French controlled 85% of every colonies that they've been controlling since 1885. But I thought it was 65. I calculated 65%. I was like 85%. Damn, 65% was enough.
That's a lot.
Yeah. They give 65% of their economies are controlled by the French. The money goes into French banks, and the French could obviously, like any institution, banking institution, arm, invest it, and you may or may not know those returns. And if you want your money back, you have to borrow. Isn't that ridiculous? So you know that's not the act of a sovereign nation. So the independence is more nominal than de facto.
That's
So
kind of crazy.
yeah, they're still colonies. They're neo-colonies. They just have African heads of state and governments. They don't have Europeans in there as colonies, obviously.
And here's the thing: France don't have no money, so all their money is coming from Africa.
Right. So what would happen with a union government? See, it's a whole new ball game. You know what I mean? And I'm talking about a planned economy. I'm talking about a joint defense, air, land, and sea. So now you're talking about a productive Africa at this particular point. We're going to speak with one voice, one president. Those countries would be status, and so now you would have the entire harness within one representative going into the UN. How powerful is that? Imagine how powerful that would be if you have one president for Africa going into the UN. The UN probably wouldn't be in America anymore. Wow. You can have a lot of influence in world affairs. We can leverage our influence. We can do a lot. It can be a force for good if we really thought about it. Really understood. Now that's not what's going on because they still hold on to these little petty little nations. I'm Kenyan. So, but that's how the colonial education was ran to produce those kind of people, and that's why they deal with them as independents, which is why they're. First of all, when they carved up Africa, they didn't carve them up to where they could actually have economies that could do anything substantial. They were frontiers for, obviously, as we know, European nations. So when they finally got to the point where the colonies became African controlled, they just offered them colonial pacts to maintain the same, relationship, but you just had blackface. That's the only difference.
That's what I told you. It was like there are 54 countries on the continent.
So that's neocolonialism is what you have now. And neocolonialism is political, it's economic. Okay.
So they look independent, but they're not.
Right.
Crazy.
So yeah, their outside policies are controlled by the former colonies, which are neocolonies. So they say now they're more invisible, but they're there. In fact, they have a lot of all those countries I just named, Britain, Portuguese, America too, to a great extent, and France have troops garrisoned all over. Now you have to have actual bases there now. See, they want to make sure that they want to make you think, yeah, to a lesser extent, they don't want anybody trying to come in and take over, but they don't want revolutionaries taking over.
Which one of the countries over there is the one that was established by former slaves from America?
Oh yeah, I think you're talking about Liberia.
They got issues over in that country.
Yeah. All of it's unstable because they're all unviable states. See, they've been balkanized.
A lot of corruption in that Liberian government. One of the members from my church, that's where she's from.
Right.
But she goes back and forth over there, and yeah, it's very unstable.
Right. When you have an unviable economy like that, corruption can only exist to that degree in the teeth of the instability that you have. So they understood when and by the way, they went to Africa because they got tired of fighting each other. They wanted to stabilize their economy because they were in economic problems. That was a way to stabilize themselves. And so when Bismarck of Germany invited them to the Berlin Conference, they didn't get no permission. They just said, okay, we're gonna carve this particular continent up between ourselves, and this is how we're gonna do it. And obviously the borders you see here and now, any map, that is the frontiers for those particular nations, and they maintain them now. In a national sense, the grip got even stronger when they changed the Europeans left in terms of their overseas administrative bodies left, and they left Africans in charge, except for a few countries that they overthrew. They overthrew the government, but because they went independent, Guinea, Ghana, Mali, and a couple of others. But and they were all overthrown, by the way, later on. But
now, what about Uganda? Because I know, like Uganda, that's
yeah. Well, at that particular time, we're talking about the same time frame that I'm referring to. They were colonized too. That was Britain. That's a British colony. But during the colonial, they started moving against Europeans in Africa. I mean, physically, they were physically there in terms of some of them had administrative, like governors from the mother countries, and some had whole administrative, like a bureaucracy that worked from their particular country. You understand? That they had once they were ran out of there, like the French were physically ran out of Africa, but they had other people who were heads of state that did the same thing that the Europeans did. Some of them. So they were able to hide their hand. Same thing in Uganda. Same thing there. By that time, it was Tom.
yeah.
Forget his last name. But then, of course, they set him up, and they put Amin in during that time. Different time. These countries became semi-independent at different times. Others became de facto independent, like
Idi
Ghana.
Amin was a crazy person.
He was, yeah, he was. I would say, yeah, but he was a product of Great Britain. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, so. But at the end, in a sort of a, I mean, he struggled to understand it, but I guess in a muddled way, he started to see the light at the end, but it's too late at that particular time. He went overboard in it. So I mean, he was ill suited to be president, but he understood that he didn't want to be the puppet no more. He understood he was right about that, but he didn't understand how to get out of it.
Yeah.
He was that dictator anyway, but of course he was their puppet, but he said, no, I'm not anymore. But by that time, they obviously ran him out. But
yeah, because you had the Indians. Now that's the thing. That was what I didn't understand, because I knew Great Britain was over Uganda, but I guess the Indians were in. There were Indians that were in Uganda from India,
right,
because they were also a British,
right,
colony.
right. Exactly.
And I guess that's how, and that's also how Mother Teresa ended up in India too, because I think she was British.
I believe she was too. I'd have to verify that. I think
because she came from a very well-to-do family.
Yeah. She didn't have to be who she turned out to be. Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, you're right. She didn't have to she didn't have to be who she actually turned out to be.
Yeah.
So, but she hated Palestinians, though. I can tell you that. I think
that's what I'm saying. But she still had a disdain for the Palestinians.
Right. Said that one fingernail of one Jew with the K-law is more precious than all the Arabs in the world, but the Palestinians do not exist. They're not. She saw them right in front of her, but to her they didn't exist. This is what I'm saying. it's kind of, you know, sort of willful, this dishonesty that you see through history of some of these people, But um, the struggle is deep, though. Struggle is deep. I just think that, basically Judaism being an African of African origin, I think it makes it our business to know what that is. I think that we have to fight against injustice anywhere we find it, especially when we see what's going on in occupied Palestine against the Palestinians. And so when you start doing a lot of research and investigation, this is what you come up with. You're like, damn, you know what I mean? So, but we persevere though. We persevere.
That's true. Well,
Just
I know we've had all y'all on here for a long time tonight, and I do appreciate it. But I think that we definitely need to have that other conversation.
which one is that?
I think more in depth about the connection with apartheid.
Oh, okay, yeah, oh yeah. See. I mean, I can keep going, but it's like,
And I would ask you to keep going, but it's just a lot of stuff I don't understand
Right.
or even heard of.
Well, yeah, certainly not tonight, but because I know we're about to go. But I, in terms of, I'm trying to not, I mean, as long as you want to hear it, though, sis, yeah, we can definitely talk about it.
Yeah, I think we'll do that on another night. I think that's probably maybe a Friday night conversation.
Yeah.
But I love hearing you speak there.
I'm sorry?
I said I love hearing you speak though, because it's definitely a learning thing, but stuff I've never even heard of or have interest in.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, no problem, Angel. I'm glad you came up and just, even if you just sat up here and just listened, it was cool. It was really cool.
I mean, I could have came earlier because there probably might have been something that you guys were talking about that I could have chopped in a few words here.
Yeah, because earlier I was talking about other stuff.
Yeah.
Listen, let me just I said this earlier. It's Angel. It's a book that will educate you about this. It's called Zionism in the Age of Dictators by this gentleman called Lenny Brenner, who's a Jew. He writes about that. You read that book. You read some of that book, and at some point you'll be able to talk about this as well as we're doing now. Trust me.
All right.
Well-researched book.
Well, guys, I appreciate both of y'all coming up, and I appreciate everyone hanging out in the chat. Yeah, I know y'all still down there because I can see you. But I'm gonna go ahead and end it for tonight. Thanks, guys. I'm gonna end it for tonight, and I hope to see you guys. I hope to see you guys on tomorrow night. But until then, you guys, peace as always from the West Side. See you guys then, okay? Bye, everybody. And thanks, Terry. Thank you for coming up. And thank you, Angel, as well. All right, everybody. Bye-bye.